Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Billion Dollar Movie Club. Thank you for joining us. My name is Christian Pawan, and as always, my co-host is
Pawan Mehta.
Juan Meta. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. All right. How about you?
I'm doing all right, all right, all right.
Oh, you think you're better than me?
No, I just think I'm Matthew
You
McConaughey.
think you're better than me?
Yes, I am better than you. I am Matthew McConaughey in 2013, and you are Chiwetel Ejiofor, who lost him at the Oscars.
You know
How
what?
does that feel?
Congrats on saying his name with full confidence.
It's one of the few things I can do. Now, was I right? I hope.
But you know what? You were confident about it.
Yes,
That's
I
all that
was.
matters.
I was confident in that. Could I have gone Bruce Dern also nominated that year? Could have. Did not think of it.
I mean, you just did. So there
After
you go.
after the fact.
I mean, that's more names than I can say for that
Christian Bale also
Oscar.
nominated that year. Leonardo DiCaprio ends and rounds out that group, if I'm correct.
Why did you memorize this?
Hold on, you know I have an odd knowledge. People know the Super Bowl. I know who was nominated in 2013 for the best
I mean, I know
actor
the
Oscar.
lyrics to songs after listening to them one time. You know this
Whoa!
stuff.
Wait, that's actually pretty cool. Can we?
That's not actually true, but like
No, we're gonna have a week where we take off and we're gonna play a game. I'm gonna give you songs, and then you do your best to replicate the song after in a dramatic reading.
see the thing with that one, we would not be able to like publish that at all because like the people who make those songs would like strike it, just go swat it out.
Do you think we're making money off of this?
No, but they got the bots.
The
They got the
bots.
bots.
The bots. A bot, like a play bot. A play bot, very similar to a toy. What? Toy Story 3?
Wait, great way to actually get on topic. Hooray.
Yes. Today our episode will be about the 2010 animated film Toy Story 3. Released on June 18th, 2010, directed by Lee Unkrich. With a budget of $200 million, Pixar and Disney released Toy Story 3. In its opening weekend, it made $110.3 million. It was the largest Pixar opening, the largest June opening, and largest G-rated opening in domestic history at the time. Would go on to lead the box office for 2 straight weeks. Pawan, what do you think took over?
In terms of G-rated movies?
No, the third week. So
Oh.
Toy Story 3 was number 1 for 2
So
weeks.
this is 2010.
The third week, it is a film, also a franchise. I believe
Was it Captain America?
No, that's 2011. It was
Hmm.
Twilight. I believe eclipsed.
Huh.
I believe Twilight eclipsed. Toy Story
Eclipse.
3. No, I'm saying Twilight eclipsed.
Ah,
Eclipsed
eclipsed. I see.
Toy Story
I see.
3. And
Very
that's
fun wordplay.
the
Haha.
sign of how society falls.
I mean, listen, we all gave shit on the Twilight movies back then. I haven't seen them,
I
and
haven't
you know
seen them
what?
either.
I feel like I should at this point because I am interested in why it was such a big phenomenon.
That's fair. Is that our sequels podcast? A press release from the Walt Disney Company. Disney Pixar's Toy Story 3 crosses $1 billion mark. Disney becomes first studio with 2 $1 billion films in 1 year. August 27, 2010, 2 weeks after becoming the highest grossing animated film of all time, Disney Pixar's Toy Story 3 will cross the $1 billion mark at the global box office today, joining Alice in Wonderland as the second $1 billion film this year from the Walt Disney Studio, the first studio in history to accomplish this feat.
Well, it's also
Go on.
Well, it's also the first year where there were 2 movies that crossed $1 billion within a year.
It is. What a year. Toy Story 3 becomes the only animated film to reach this milestone and the 7th title in industry history. As of Thursday, August 26, 2010, Toy Story 3 tallied more than 592.9 million internationally, Disney's largest international animated release. Latin American audiences have contributed 138 million $138 million, making Toy Story 3 the highest grossing Disney film ever released in the region. Toy Story 3 is the most successful UK release in Disney history and currently stands as the fourth biggest title in territory history with 102.4 million in box office receipts so far. In Japan, the film has taken in $111.2 million and spent 5 consecutive weeks at the number 1 place.
That's
The
a lot of
film
regions.
ended its domestic run with $415 million, a total of $1.066 billion. It, at the time, was the 9th highest grossing domestic film and the 4th highest grossing worldwide. And in my research, did I forget to look up the current places? Yes. So let's do a little quick Googling of that. Currently, dang it, all-time domestic. Toy Story
3?
is currently the 30th highest grossing movie domestically and 34th highest grossing movie worldwide. Juan Meta,
Yes.
what is your history with the Toy Story franchise? And I'd like to throw in there Pixar in general.
So I had the first movie on VHS tape back in the day. Watched that quite a lot. And I saw the second one a couple of times. Not as much as the first because I didn't have my own copy of it.
I see.
But yeah, I personally think obviously I've seen 2 fewer times than 1, but I do think I might have liked it better. But I also have like Incredibles on DVD, Monsters Inc. Yeah,
Have you've seen 3 before? Yes.
I have seen this movie before. Yes,
Uh,
I think it was the first movie we got from Redbox.
oh,
Yeah,
a Redbox release.
yeah, I didn't see it in theaters.
Interesting. So you're not part of the $1.066 billion.
Yeah, I mean, for a good amount of these, I just wasn't there.
That's fair.
How about you? What's your
big
history?
fan. Like you, I think I want to say I had both Toy Story films. I'm sure I had 2 on VHS because I remember the cover being like Buzz and Woody, but Woody is like the bunny ears above Buzz. And I remember watching those all the time. I'm happy to say I've seen every Pixar film. I've seen every since Wall-E in theaters at least once. I grew up with those films more often than the Disney Renaissance films. I feel like most people will quote those, but I think I watched Monsters Inc. all the time and Incredibles and Finding Nemo.
Right.
So I love Pixar. I saw this one in theaters, which I don't know if you remember this. Before Toy Story 3 was released in theaters, Disney did a re-release of 1 and 2
Oh, right, yes.
as a double feature in 3D. So I saw that in theaters as well.
Was it all in one day?
Yes, it was back to back, and there was like a little intermission in between.
How did you sit through that?
It's only like 3 hours in total.
No.
Yes, 1 and 2 are very short.
Okay, maybe 1 and 2, but I was talking about all 3 movies.
Oh no, it wasn't all 3.
Oh, okay.
No. It was that, and then like months later, 3 finally came out.
I see.
And may I add one more story to Toy Story
3?
'Cause
Well, I mean, how many stories have we had so far? I think we've had 2, so you are due for 1 more.
Thank you. I believe I watched it opening weekend. I don't remember for sure. I do remember before watching the movie, I was in a Barnes and Nobles.
Noble.
Noble, I apologize. It's only one of them. Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Nobles.
No.
I was in
it's
the
not
store.
either.
I was in the bookstore. And I was in the magazine section. I found this Disney magazine. Like, ooh, I like Disney. So I'm scanning through it, and there's stuff about Toy Story 3. I'm like, ooh. And there was a comic for Toy Story 3. So I was flipping through it. I saw something and was like, I think that's a spoiler for the movie. And I closed the magazine and threw it back on the shelf. And you know what? It was. I don't know who authorized that magazine, but they ruined me.
Listen, I'm all for people who are like, you know what? I believe in my story. I'm just gonna just give spoilers in the like press releases for it. Mad respect for those people.
If you will. If you will. I'd like to throw in over here, quickly, nominated for 5 Academy Awards.
Hmm.
Won 2. Uh, it won for Best Animated Feature and
Of
Best
course.
Original Song. The only Toy Story film to win for Best Original Song.
Wait,
Randy Newman's "We Belong Together," the end credits song for this film. Obviously, a
huh?
beloved song. Something odd I didn't realize. Every Toy Story has been nominated for Best Original Song, except for the first one, which has the most iconic song. But anyways,
Uh,
Toy Story 3 won for animated feature and song, had nominations for sound editing, adapted screenplay, and picture.
Wait, adapted screenplay.
Yes, adapted because it's adapted from the first 2 Toy Story. Sequels go in adapted because it's the same characters from a past.
Really? Huh. I did not know that.
Yeah. So rarely do sequels get a screenplay nomination that
That's true.
come up. But yeah. But yeah, it was nominated for picture, which is a gigantic deal because it is only the 3rd animated film to ever be nominated for picture and the most recent. We have not seen an animated feature.
Let me guess, which are the other ones? So there's
Let's
Beauty and the Beast.
Yes, that was the very first, back in 91 or
Was
3.
the Iron Giant one of them?
The Iron Giant. That's such an out there guess that I respect it.
What is it?
Up.
Oh, okay.
Remember when Up and Toy Story 3 were nominated, they were doing straight 10 nominations. There's
Wait,
no
Up was
sliding
that was
scale.
like 2008, wasn't it?
2009.
Huh. I was thinking that came out afterwards, but interesting.
So yeah, those are fun facts. Juan, what are your thoughts on Toy Story 3?
I was a big fan of the opening moments of the film.
It's so fun.
It reminded me a lot of like when I was playing with the action figures growing up, where like you'd just be like, "Oh, I have this ultimate superpower," or like, "I have this ultimate barrier, and I have this weapon that defeats your ultimate barrier."
Did you? So I was watching this and I love when how Andy like makes his piggy bank the villain. Were most of your toys licensed toys growing up?
Yes.
Same. I feel like we lost something because
I mean, most of my toys were Dragon Ball Z toys.
okay.
So like a lot of the things were like, "You're not powerful enough to defeat me."
So side tangent. 2 minutes into the conversation about the movie, what were your favorite toys as a kid? I think this is a fun question.
So this is one that I found while I was in India back in like 2004. I think it was the first Dragon Ball Z action figure I got. I was just in one of the like shops and I saw on the shelf there was like Super Saiyan Gohan in his car.
Wait, why is he in a car if he's Super Saiyan?
It made no sense, but the thing is like it was literally his car from the TV show because it's like a very specific car that has 2 wheels in the front and like 1 wheel in the back.
Uh-huh.
And like there's no way you'd find that anywhere else. So I was like, I have to get this. And it wasn't like like particularly expensive, and it wasn't even like listed as a Dragon Ball Z toy.
Uh-huh. Oh god.
So yeah, I really like that combo.
That's very fun. How so you said you got in like 04?
Yeah, or 04 or 05,
So
somewhere
you're
around
like,
there.
Like 6, 7, right?
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
What was your favorite toy?
I had a when I graduated pre-K, they gave us all this little bear with like a graduation hat on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I loved that toy. The hat came off eventually, and the name of the bear changed with whatever I liked at the moment. I was really into Super Smash Brothers Melee, and so I would call it Luigi. I would call it Pichu. These are all memories I forgot until this week.
Did it come up because you saw these movies?
Yeah, I was thinking about my personal favorite toys back then. which I think that opening sequence does brilliantly.
Yeah.
Um, and the montage after that, as it goes to Andy, like measuring their heights up against the door frame and like having a party with all of them. It was adorable and made me feel. You did not rewatch the original, the full original trilogy, right? The first one.
No, because I forgot that there was research involved with this podcast
That's fair.
until yesterday, where I was like, oh, I actually have to watch the movie before talking about it.
So I rewatched 1, 2, and 3, and it's interesting how one does the play imaginary sequence as well,
Mm-hmm.
but because it's 1995 and technology isn't there, it is you see Andy's hands moving them and playing them with them and moving them around. And then seeing that compared to this entire fantasy sequence where they're in the middle of a canyon and there's a giant spaceship and all that, it's the grand scale of it mesmerized me, impressed me. Um, that was my biggest takeaway of watching these three movies again is the evolution of the animation each time, which I think we can get into later on.
One thing that I noticed um, while watching these is that none of the toys really have like the sort of like wear and tear or like feeling that they've been used, except for like the moments after like the kindergarten scene. I'm talking about in terms of like, you know how in the Lego movie they have like the fingerprints and stuff. Like,
Do they? I haven't seen that movie in a
yes,
while.
that if you look closely, you could see like fingerprints and stuff on the
Huh.
toys. Uh, it feels like that's missing in this one, which I kind of get, but
Yes,
like it makes it feel less tangible.
I understand that, but no, that's a fair point. It is important to point out that this was a $200 million movie. I'm sure they wanted to look fancy and not like it was dirty, but I understand the loss of the age of these toys.
Yeah,
Um,
which is very important in this movie.
yes, it's all about the timing. That's one of the things I like about this more so than say later on we'll watch Finding Dory and Incredibles 2 is that they you take that time jump and incorporate it into the film.
Hmm. By the way, should we provide a quick synopsis of the movie
Sure,
itself?
sure.
Go ahead, Miss Ensign.
So Toy Story 3, Woody's like, oh, we gotta make sure we're there for Andy. And the toys are like, Andy doesn't want us anymore. And they end up in what? A daycare. This is nice, but no, the evil bear is mean. And so they're like, no, let's escape this prison. And so they do. Did you enjoy the synopsis?
It was fun. I'll give it that. Yeah.
I'd like to think that Michael Arden, who was like the head writer of this movie, I didn't realize he wrote Little Miss Sunshine
Hmm.
before doing this. I think he would have approved of my synopsis.
One thing I'd like to note
Yes.
in the title sequence when they played the "You Got a Friend in Me" song,
Mhm.
I made note of the fact that the final line they did of that song before going into the movie itself was "Our friendship will never die."
It's Our Friendship Will Never Die, and then slow fade to black as the sound cuts off. And you're like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Which brings us to the theme of the movie.
Theme.
What do you think it is?
Letting go. What do you think? Because there's obviously multiple themes, like any other piece of art. But that's
Right,
what I
right.
hit with.
I think the main one is death because listen, Andy is these toys' whole world. And in terms of usefulness to Andy, they're past that point. So basically all that's left for them, it's like they're in retirement at the beginning of this movie.
Mm, I don't know if I agree with that. Because it's because let's talk about the elephant in the room. That finale is one of the saddest fucking things in any film ever. and it is, I think, what you're left with them in the fucking the fire pit.
Oh, that's what you mean by the ending.
Yeah. Sorry, not the ending, but like near the end.
You're talking about like the emotional climax.
Yeah, that's what I think about when I think of this movie. But I don't think the movie's about death
Hmm.
because maybe it's because I've seen 4 and you haven't seen 4.
From
Maybe
my understanding from watching the trailers, for the whole point of 4 is questioning like why do we still exist?
no. I think this is very much letting go because I will point to at the end near the end of the movie. Um, where's the line? Yes, okay. So if the toys finally get back to Andy's house, and Woody's in the college box looking at them, seeing Andy and the mom go in the room. Um, and one of the things I love about this film is that I somehow get emotional with just the Andy and his mom storyline as well, which is like 2 minutes in total. But there's Woody looking out of the box, the college box, looking at them, and the mom goes, she hugs Andy and goes, "I wish I could always be with you."
So
And
going off of that, one thing that it's just a little, it's a nitpick. It
okay,
is. Why did Andy lose his room because he's going to college?
I don't think he lost it.
No, in the sense that like it, they were literally saying that Molly was going to move into his room and like he has to get rid of everything in his room.
No, I thought she was asking for it, and he said no.
No. Early on, they were like, clean this up because Molly's coming in here. Like that's what the mom said, and like that's why they were playfully doing that.
I wait, no. Molly goes, "Can I have your room?" And he says no.
No, he's like, no, she says, can I still have your room if I don't do this? And he's like, no. So then she does the thing. It's like a joke between them. Molly is
Okay.
taking that room. That's why it's completely cleared out at the end.
It might be bigger than hers?
I guess, but like I just the
So
implication that like he's in college, he's never coming back.
I don't
He's left the nest,
there is this hopefulness that once you leave the nest you're gone. I
which
think
I
we're
think
both
is
proof that
very,
that's
it's also, it seems like very optimistic to me considering this movie came out in 2010,
yeah.
2 years after the crash of '08, where
That
it's
didn't
like,
affect college students, did it?
oh, it definitely
I'm
did.
kidding. I'm kidding. I saw The Big Short.
But yeah, it was just like, damn, white parents really be like that sometimes, don't they? It's like, you know what? You're 18, get the fuck out.
Didn't want to say that, but yeah. Or at least this portrayal of them. Let's not throw them all in one group. They've had enough hardships. Back to the film. Um, I think I briefly brought up the ending. I think the ending kind of paints how people think of this movie. They think of it just for the feelings and the
The
tears.
trash fire, you mean, or the
Both.
hmm.
I bawled during both those sequences, but this movie is hilarious as well. You don't think so?
There was a lot of homophobic jokes.
That's the one thing that didn't age.
That was
The
very mid late 2000s,
yes,
early 2010s.
I think of the two being when Barbie walks away from the bookworm and he sees her heels and he's like, yeah, it's like oh, and then during the end credits, Buzz's like, oh, Barbie has nice penmanship, and they're like, it's Ken, and they all look
Yeah.
at each other and like, that's no, there's nothing wrong with that. That's no.
An interesting little moment I noticed that involved sexuality
Hmm.
was when Barbie had Ken pinned and was like, "Tell me how to fix Buzz," and then he was like, "You'll never make me talk," and then he just like, "But I'd like to see you try."
Did I miss that line? Can we? Okay. In each and every of the first three films, these toys are horny as fuck. They want to fuck so bad. Bo Peep and Woody cannot keep their hands off each other in the first one. In the second one, after they get back from Andy from the airport, Buzz and Jesse are like, and Bo Peep and Woody are still, and the potato heads are like, and then in this one, Buzz and Jesse have their stuff going on. Barbie and Ken have their stuff going on. Like, come on. I didn't know toys were like this.
I mean, that just added a whole other element to the moment where like Barbie was just like breaking all away Ken's clothes, where he was like listing off. He was definitely getting something out of that. It was like, oh yeah, no, don't destroy it, but yeah, oh yeah, you can go for that.
Oh God.
Listen,
So
the Barbie toys are real kinky in this movie.
they are.
And
Again,
like, I love how the caterpillar just assumes that like that's just Ken's kink. With the heels.
I don't know where to continue this conversation to.
But tell me I'm wrong.
No, it's very funny.
Let's
Um,
talk about Molly for a second. Wait, no,
Molly.
is that the
Molly's the character you want to talk about? His
no
sister?
Bonnie? Bonnie, that's the
Bonnie.
one. That's the
What do
one.
you
Let's
want to
talk
talk about
about
with
Bonnie.
Bonnie?
Do, what do you think of Bonnie?
She's adorable. She has like 8 lines in this movie. What do you have wrong with her?
I feel like Bonnie's inclusion in this movie is kind of a cop out.
Of what?
Listen, this entire trilogy has been about them revolving around Andy and
Yeah.
being like, listen, we're here for Andy. And once he grows up, the whole second movie is like, you know what, we're gonna stick with Andy, even though when he grows up, we're gonna just be left alone.
Yeah.
And then the ending of this movie just kind of invalidates that.
I don't think that's accurate at all. Again,
Mm.
I think it's about letting go. They let go of Andy and realize that they need to move on to a new to figure out what else to do with them. Find a new place to do what they're meant to do, which is bring enjoyment and happiness to these children. And originally they were Andy because they were bought for Andy. But when you're in they were probably in the chest for what, a decade. Like,
Something like that.
they have to let go of Andy, realize that what they did is done, but that they will still be there for him in his heart, and he will still be in their hearts if toys have hearts. And then they move on.
I find the idea that like they find self-worth in being owned very interesting.
What? What is this element you're bringing into these movies?
Listen, all these toys, they found self-worth and it's like, yes, this is my child. He or she plays with me. That's and it's like the hierarchy is based on like, are you their favorite toy?
Outside of the first one, where is the argument of the hierarchy of toys?
That's just something I'm gonna throw out there and leave alone.
I don't think that's accurate at all. I think maybe the first one's a metaphor for could be considered a metaphor for children, and like Buzz is a new baby and Woody's the only child who's like, oh, someone's taking all my attention. I think you could throw that onto it. I think on a larger scale, it's a metaphor for parenthood, and you see that you can see that in 4 when we get to 4. You get it in 3 when it's like it's exactly what the mom is. Which shout out to Laurie Metcalf, by the way. Love Laurie Metcalf. She plays the mom. Um, and yeah, that idea that just because they're not together doesn't mean that they've lost each other. You know.
Bring up something.
I want to bring up the 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 um. So the movie starts off, and they after the montage, they're trying to get Andy back, right? They're
Mhm.
trying to get him to open the chest. And one moment that I felt so many feels during this watch, like I wasn't expecting it. Some of these scenes, but they get the house phone to call Andy's phone, which is in the toy chest. So Andy goes to grab his phone. And he's like, "That's weird. It's here." And so he picks up the phone. He's like, "Hello, hello." And Woody's on the house phone, and he like hugs the phone closer as he goes to listen to Andy's voice. And I'm like, man. Um, of the characters, do you have any standout characters in this film?
Hmm. The phone. The phone at the daycare.
Oh, the chatter phone, is that's what
Yeah.
they're called? I love the chatter phone.
Uh,
He only has like 3 scenes, but he's really fucking cool. He is cool, and I like when he first tells Woody about the layout. He's like, unless you get the monkey, you're not gonna get out of here. He has that weird gruffness to him. I don't even know who plays him. I'm gonna look that up. But was there another character you want to bring up?
monkey was adequately menacing.
I freaking hate that monkey. Like, I'm shocked I didn't have nightmares of that monkey
It,
growing up.
it it is kind of terrifying at like the when you initially meet it.
And it's very
Those eyes.
loud.
It's the eyes.
The eyes bulge out.
Yeah.
They're swirly and they bulge out. This movie is rated G. I don't think it should be rated G for the death, the almost death, and the monkey.
Which actual death?
The almost death. Sorry, not actual death. Almost death.
See, that's the thing. It's all implications. That's why they're able to get away with it.
Well, it also almost happened. Hold up.
Because it's toys. Who cares?
Literally, anyone who watches and cries during this movie
Yeah,
cares.
but see, from the MPAA point of view, there's no blood.
I
There's no
did.
gore.
I did read once someone was like, "Yeah, there's regrets about this movie not being PG because of that the the burning scene."
Well, yeah. But yeah.
Um, Shouts to Randy Newman, whose score is terrific in all three of these films.
Mhm.
Does a great job. What do you think of the prison aspects of the film and the little fake out that they have when they first arrive to the daycare?
Hmm. I'll be honest, I didn't really think much of it. Like, it's just there.
Do you? I have a lot of fun with them. I think it's a lot of fun intrigue. One
The
thing to
only moment that I really enjoyed about it was the phone call where they were like planning the sort of heist, like planning the heist montage
you don't
where they
like
were going
any.
through the.
Did you not like any of the actual breakout? Because one of the things I noticed that I didn't realize is that Toy Story movies are basically spy movies
Yeah.
because they're always sneaking around. Um,
One thing I did notice though that was in the first two, but not in this one, is that there's like a huge scene. Like the climax is usually trying to get back to Andy.
yes,
Like in the first movie, it was trying to get back to his car, and the second one is trying to get back to his suitcase or something at the airport.
it's not Andy's suitcase, but yeah, it's a chase.
And then in this one, they literally skip that moment.
Well, was it not the all the dramatic tension was them trying to get out of uh the dump.
I mean, yeah, that's where it technically was for that moment, but in terms of like the it was a tension of getting out as opposed to getting back to Andy. Like there's the there's the moment between getting out of that trash compactor and showing up at Andy's house that's just completely skipped, which would have been the climax of the previous two movies. It's just something I noticed.
I don't know if I'm not sure I got what you're getting at.
Well, it feels like that's the sort of moment that the previous two movies relied on as their climax, the sort of getting back to the owner thing. Specifically that.
I think you're misremembering two. Because in
Maybe.
two, Jesse, they were rescuing Jesse from the airport, and then they were like, they rescue her, and they're like, "Oh no, we gotta get to Andy fast. How are we gonna do it?" And then they drive a car to Andy's, and they skip that.
Oh, okay. So I guess I did remember that.
Um, there was one thing I wanted to bring up. If we're talking about patterns in the films,
Hmm.
one of the things I've noticed in my rewatch, I did a rewatch last year before four, and I this week, is the fact that Buzz is never really important after the first one. So in every film, Woody is separated from the main group somehow, and is trying to get back to them. Like that's a main crutch in all of them.
Yeah.
And then so it splits into two storylines of what Woody's trying to do, and then the ensemble and them trying to get to Woody or whatever they're trying to do. The
Hmm.
first one doesn't go back and forth really, but the second one cuts between the team trying to rescue Woody, and the third one cuts between Woody at Bonnie's house and then the rest of them at the daycare. And so
It
I
doesn't feel like there was much time for the in between those two though. Like
which
when Woody was at Bonnie's as opposed to when he came back.
but also before Bonnie, it's like him trying to get out of the daycare for the first time.
Hmm.
And so I always think it's odd. Like I understand if it's odd when like Buzz is second lead and kind of the more popular character. I feel because these are totally Woody's movies, and when we get to four, I think it becomes much more obvious, much more solid. But
I mean, it falls into a similar. Well, no. It's just one of those things where it's like you don't necessarily know how to incorporate this character into your movies, but like it's the main draw that everyone comes for.
sure, sure. And you're building off of that, I hate. I don't know if I say hate because I always enjoy it, but it feels a little lazy.
Hmm.
I love this film. It feels a little lazy that each film there's some sort of reset for Buzz. So in the first movie, he's like, I don't know, I'm a toy. I think I'm a real ranger.
Right.
Second movie, there's two Buzzes.
Oh
So they
yeah.
revisit that. And in this one, they reset and it's Spanish Buzz thinks he's a ranger. Buzz is an idiot in each of these films.
I'll be honest, I kind of really liked the idea of the second movie where he confronts like his past self.
Oh no, I love it. I love it. I love the execution of it. But it feels that's if I had to nitpick, because I love these movies so much, it's the repetition of Buzz resetting somehow.
I mean, again, it's one of the it's that they don't really know what to do with Buzz. It's like he sort of finished his character arc in the first movie,
Yeah.
and they don't know what to do other than to repeat it somehow.
Um
Just keep him in a holding pattern while everything else happens.
uh Other than Buzz, I would like to talk about this lady right here, Jesse.
Hmm.
Buzz, obviously, Tim Allen played him. Jesse, played by the great Joan Cusack.
Wait, Buzz was not played by Buzz Aldrin.
No, no, no. I know it's a common misconception.
I mean, they both went to space.
Yes, Buzz Aldrin played Buzz in the 2010 video game adaptation of Toy Story 3,
I see. I
but
see.
not the film itself. Common misconception that every Toy Story fan makes at first. You know,
Every Toy Story fan.
I've spoken to millions upon millions
Millions
of Toy
and
Story fans,
millions.
and everyone's like, "Wait, Buzz Aldrin, the second man to land on the moon, wasn't the voice of Buzz?" I'm like, no. I hate to kill your fun there. But back to Jesse.
Hmm.
I
Jesse.
I didn't realize how much
Jesse.
I love the Jesse character until this week. Joan Cusack is a delight. She is so wild and free and fun, but also there's this element to Jesse of like kind of PTSD, and she has these anxiety panic attacks whenever she
Mhm.
thinks of Emily and being given up. and it adds this grounded element to this fun character that makes me feel this is gonna be
You
a
know what?
recurring
Let's
movie.
create a list of all the things that make you feel in this movie.
I cried
So
like
what did we start with? We started with both endings.
yes. First,
We got
the phone.
the phone. Wait, the
Um,
phone.
when Woody's holding onto the phone, you hear
Oh,
Andy's
that
voice.
phone. That phone.
We
Okay.
got the goodbye between Andy and his mom. We got Jesse. The
Any others you want to add?
oh, we'll get to it.
Oh, so we're not finishing the list now. We're just
No,
keeping
we'll add
track.
to. Yeah, we'll revisit the list as we go on.
Mhm, mhm.
But I literally cried like 5 times last night watching this movie. I started this movie at like 1 a.m. From 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., I cried many times, many more than I expected to.
I'll be honest. You know what I was thinking when I was watching that final scene where Andy was handing the toys to Bonnie?
What were you thinking?
I enjoyed Avatar more.
You're a piece of. How? We'll get to that. We'll get to that. God dang it. Did you notice Molly had an iPod?
Huh. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I mean,
like,
she wasn't she like supposed to be around 12, 13?
yeah, I just thought it was cool that it was an actual iPod. I think Steve Jobs was like a founder or an early investor in Pixar.
Yeah.
That feels like a good circle around. Um, one of the things I noticed watching this is the I mentioned the advancement in technology and whatnot, right?
Right.
They do things with the quote unquote camera in this movie that are so further ahead of the first two movies. Like there's these pans across the characters and then like an establishing shot of the daycare when they first get there, it pulls back and it pans a bit. I'm like, oh, a little movement there. They have close-ups to the characters,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll also focus on the character in front and the background would blur. I'm like,
Ooh.
oh, this I don't think would have been possible in Tool.
Cool.
Tool. And um the details in the characters and the environments, there's so much more there. Looking at the sky compared to Toy Story 3 and 1 is just miles away of differences. Did that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think looking back, it's easy to forget how much of an advancement they've made.
Hmm.
Um, the humans in this movie do not look gross.
Yeah. That's true. They don't look terrible.
And Buster the dog looks incredible when you compare it to the dog in the first Toy Story in Sid's house that looks like he's from Tomb Raider on the PS1, all triangular and boxy. And
Well,
so
if anything, I thought that was more realistic. You're telling me dogs aren't boxy and like triangular?
only Chihuahuas.
Hmm.
Do you only look at Chihuahuas? You realize
Uh,
there's a breadth of other
No, the
species
only
and
dogs that
breeds of
exist are
dogs.
Chihuahuas, it seems.
Wow, someone lied to me. Someone lied to me. Shoutouts to people like Wallace Shawn, who plays Rex, and John Ratzenberger, who's Ham, who always appear in these Toy Story films.
You know, one thing that kind of bugged me in this one, though?
What?
The fact that a piggy bank is considered a toy acceptable to give to a daycare.
There's no vetting the toys.
But,
No
like,
checking to make sure they're clean or anything.
also the idea that, like, none of the, like, supervisors or like teachers saw these children playing with literally a glass piggy bank that could easily be broken.
I don't think he's class because he's fallen multiple times in all these movies.
Hmm. But still, like it's a piggy bank.
You would think he's much more breakable than he appears to be. Um, I. What did you think of the new toys? The new characters they added to this film? Any
Hmm.
standouts?
I feel like the ones in Bonnie's room were interesting, but they weren't really fleshed out. I assume that happens a lot more in 4.
I'll let you make assumptions.
Um, there was Ken, which there were a lot. There was. I have mixed feelings about Ken
Yes.
because on one hand, he brings into the story this interesting like topic of gendered toys and how that interacts with how they exist as just toys, but like they don't really explore that in a meaningful way.
I think you're looking a lot deeper into it. I don't think there's an attempt to look that deep into gender in toys and identity.
But like,
I'm sure you could look at it if you wanted to.
but the jokes were there based on it, so they
Yeah,
could have delved deeper.
but this was 2010.
We'll come back to this.
I do think the Ken character, I found him charismatic and fun, and I didn't realize that this was when I first fell in love with Michael Keaton. Like I forget that that's him, and he's a lot of fun in this film. Him going back and forth with Jodie Benson's Barbie. Jodie Benson is she played Ariel in The Little Mermaid, so it's fun that she's in this. Shout out to Bonnie's Toys, who are Mr. Pricklepants, played by Timothy Dalton, Buttercup, played by Jeff Garland, Dolly, played by Donnie Hunt, and Trixie, played by Kristen Shaw.
I also enjoyed Trixie because I just really enjoy Kristen Shaw and whatever she's in.
Yes. Yes. Both big fans of BoJack Horseman. She's always a delight.
She was great in Flight of the Conchords.
I still need to watch that. And let me add Trixie to the list of horny toys.
Ha.
No, but it's just a dinosaur dinosaur toy down the
Yeah,
block.
the chat room.
Like, hold up, Trixie. Come on, girl. Lotso Huggin' Bears. Lotso Huggin' Bear. I think he's a terrific villain. Big fan of him. His backstory. Can we add one to the counter of feels?
Okay, so that's 6.
I believe it's 6. It's tragic. It's
Weirdly, it feels like it kind of feels almost like a retread of Jesse's story, like backstory from the second movie, combined with the 2 buzzes idea.
How with the buzzes? I could see the Jesse in the toy being lost, but how with the buzzes?
Confronting the fact that you are not unique as an entity in terms of being this toyhood.
Okay, that seems clear, but it's again it the thing that fascinates me with this movie is that it deepens the lore in the world. Because the first movie feels so close to Andy. Second movie, you get a few more locations, but you don't get any in between. You get a larger scale, the scope of the world, and the different groups of toys, and so you do revisit the owner losing the toy or giving up the toy.
Mm-hmm.
But the reasoning behind it is different. Rather than the slow breakup that is Jesse and Emily, you get the betrayal of being cheated on, if you will. That's basically what it is, right?
I guess
it's like
from his perspective, that
would like if a girl was dating a dude and then went on a date with the twin, not realizing that he's a twin.
Well, I'm pretty sure the child. Okay, here's how this can't be a 1-to-1 comparison.
Oh, I know it's not, but go on.
Because the child knows that it's another version of it.
Does it? I think there's a world where the parents go, "Look, we found Lotso. Here's Lotso," and she's like, "Oh, because I'm a dumb child. I think it is Lotso. I think it is my Lotso."
Maybe, I guess. I mean, again, this is something that it's impossible to really speculate on because we get like 5 seconds with this child.
I will say, as I'm watching the first movie, I'm trying to think of how I would fix three. I'm like, huh, what if there were like two Woodies or two Buzzes? And then it was like, wait, no, they do that in Toy Story 2 with Buzz, and they do it with Lotso in 3. Maybe I need a new idea. Perhaps I need a new idea.
Uh, what else is there?
Again, I just want to shout the humor. I found this movie very funny. Outside of the homophobic jokes, um,
I
whether
mean,
it's
I'll be honest. The only humor that got to me was uh the shot composition in terms of when the caterpillar room children come in and it's shot like a war zone sort of thing.
oh, that's a fun sequence. Oh, that's a fun. But I found the dialogue driven stuff like this isn't the time to be freaking out. What? This should be the freaking out time. I found that funny. I hate how often I laugh at the potato head humor of him like pulling off his nose and water falling out, or like him putting it in the pickle and walking around as a pickle. I love the tortilla moment when he's a tortilla and the pigeon comes out of nowhere to fight him. That's very funny. Um, I think it's a really fucking funny movie. All the Smash Buzz stuff, I'm like, I'm is this laughing at the culture or not? I
I
don't
mean, it
know,
kind of is.
but it's still kind of funny because it's Buzz.
I mean, it's kind of like I think it's supposed to be like making fun of telenovelas and stuff like
Yes,
that.
yes. But there's an ounce of is this making fun of the culture?
But again, just the amount of heteronormativity in this movie just got to me.
Sure, that is problematic. That's
And
problematic.
like the extreme genderedness of everything.
It's as if that's a problem in our real world that we have to slowly overcome. I'm talking to you, listener. Look me in the eyes, listener. I'm looking into the camera. You're looking me in the eyes. And if you're listening to this on a podcast system, imagine my
Look
eyes.
into the eyes of your earbuds.
Yes. Take off the earbud, place it on your eye hole.
We'll let you know when to put it back in your ears.
I love that the squishy aliens have like 4 lines, and 3 of those 4 lines are the claw. Because they're so distant from each other that you forget. And then they say it. It's like, yes, I like that. I like that. I thought it was interesting this film. Um, I mentioned Randy Newman's music. I love the moments where it kind of sits and lets the music talk for itself, like the incinerator scene, like a lot of the heist, like the final ending. But they
Honestly, it felt like in that final ending, it was more the emotion was more driven by the music than the scene itself.
but is the music not part of the scene?
I guess, but it so
Yeah,
there
I don't you can't judge a scene by just aspects of it, can you?
no, I mean in terms of like so an example I'll give
Okay.
is the ending of Requiem for a Dream.
We'll pretend that I've seen this film.
Everyone says like, "Oh my god, it's so hard to watch the ending. It's so sad." But like it's mostly from the music.
Music is such an evocative element of film.
It is, but whenever I watch scenes like that, at a certain point, if it goes on a little bit too long, I notice that, and that just distances me from what's happening
Interesting.
and makes me think that Avatar is a better movie.
Can we get to that later? I don't want to have this dumbass conversation now. But so you're saying if a film relies on its score too much, you notice and you ding it for it for the reliance on the score?
It's not necessarily that I ding it, it's more that it actually takes me out of the experience. Like,
Interesting.
actually. It's not just a pet peeve where I just notice it, it's like, yeah, that's bad. It's something that actively removes me from it.
Huh. It's an interesting way of looking at it. Because I do agree the score does so much work in that final scene. Mm, but also I think the simplicity of the scene. Andy playing with his toys for one last time with Bonnie. the delight, the joy in their faces as they do voices and sound effects, along with the score.
I guess, but like, I don't know how I would change that though. But like for me, the most intense moments I feel in movies are usually the ones where the score is just completely removed. And it's just like the room tones and like the actual moment itself. But again,
I
that
think,
only works because the rest of the movies around it feel normal in that
yeah,
sense.
I think that just depends on the movie and the scene and what's needed for the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do think I just think it's interesting that that takes her out of it.
it does. Like
Speaking,
another example was the ending of The Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
you're naming movies I have not watched that were not on the homework list for this podcast, so I have no thoughts. Wait, hold up. I saw my cousin watching the end of that movie once. That's a
Mhm.
sad scene.
Yeah, and literally I was watching that movie in class being like, "Oh, this is the moment where the well, I don't want to spoil it, but like this is the and then he goes into the shower and then the dad.
Yeah, it's sad.
But like because the music was carrying it so much that it literally pushed me back to be like, okay.
Is there not a possibility that it's such a horrific scene that you need the music to make it a little more manageable? Again, it's your taste. It's probably the director's choice after conversation with like the composers and everything, like what the director thinks the scene needs. And
Right.
yeah, it's I don't know.
I don't know, that's just a personal thing, I guess.
Um, I have a note here that says Toy Story, greatest spies in the world. I want a Toy Story stealth video game.
What was the Toy Story 3 video game since you keep bringing up Toy Story and video games? Because I remember it being one that's like people keep touting as like a really good Disney game.
So I remember the campaign. I never owned it, but the campaign was like a your normal video game campaign, but it was the introduction of the toy box mode, which they
Right.
would later elaborate in Disney Infinity, which is basically kind of a Minecraft with toys. Uh, this might have been like as Minecraft came out, but that was the big deal when the game came out. I never owned it, but I did notice in the end credits, at the end of the end credits, it's like soundtrack and video game now available in stores. I'm like, oh, thank you, Disney, for being a corporation trying to sell us everything, I guess. I like that Totoro was in this movie.
Yeah, I noticed that it was there and it didn't say a damn thing.
Yeah. Totoro doesn't have a voice. Actually, I think it
Oh,
does. I think it kind of goes like, oh, oh, but it doesn't speak.
hmm.
That's fun. Um, I liked that. Um, now that the Toy Story is the major name it is, they're allowed to toss in fun wordplay. Like Ken's like, Barbie wouldn't know me any different from a GI Joe, or Lotsa goes, OFAO my shorts. Like this is fun. This is fun.
More branding.
The rain in the sequence, Lotso's flashback, gorgeous. The monkeys and settling. The pacing of this film, I
It was
find
pretty brisk.
every. I'll say with the first three. I forget with the fourth. I need another rewatch. The first three films are perfectly paced in that it never drags. It gets to where it wants to right away. It. They're so short. They're so
You know,
short, and I
that is
love a good
nice.
short
It
movie.
is nice
I
to experience a movie that's short and actually feels short.
Toy Story 3 is the longest Toy Story film. It's 103 minutes long. It is the shortest film we've talked about in this podcast.
And the second shortest film feels longer than the longest film.
Yeah, well, we had that conversation last week. But I appreciate that these movies know what they want to do, know what they want to say, and they do it. They get
Well, I
it
mean,
done.
it's also a thing with like children's movies that you have to be a lot quicker because they're not going to stick around for any slow scenes.
Those first two Harry Potters are long. I forget how long, but
But were those really targeted at the same sort of audience as Toy Story?
what audience was Toy Story?
Toy Story is
Three,
definitely
three,
younger
three,
than
three. Three comes out 11 years after two.
it's still,
Everyone's older now.
but they're still going after the youngest audience possible as well.
I don't know if Pixar does that with all their movies. I think at first glance you assume it, but Incredibles is not aimed at little tiny kids, especially in 2005, 4 or 5. I don't think Wally's aimed at children.
I disagree.
We'll come to this conversation when we talk about Incredibles, I guess. We'll never talk about Wally, so who cares?
Yeah, because I mean, it's definitely not. I'm not talking about like 4-year-olds,
Sure.
but like even 6 or 7-year-olds need something that moves at a brisk pace.
Okay.
Whereas with Harry Potter, you're talking more like 10 or 11.
Yeah, that's a fair argument. I have no comebacks.
What else do I have to talk about?
I don't have many notes. I think these three films are as perfect as a film can be. They aren't because no film is perfect, but I genuinely think
Hmm.
that I could watch them over and over again and feel all the feels I need to.
Hmm. I mean, I don't agree.
Yeah, I see that. Is this when we're talking? How do you think Avatar is better than this film? Please explain to me.
I mean, I just genuinely. So here's an element that I don't know if I necessarily articulated that well when we were watching that movie or like I even brought up. But like there's a a reason people usually go to see these huge blockbuster movies is the spectacle of it,
Yes.
which usually does not work for me as like an incentive to see a movie or actually like be wowed by it. I have to actually be invested in the story and stuff. But Avatar was a movie that really got me with just the spectacle.
Even at home?
Yeah.
Huh. I yeah, it didn't hit me that way.
I really just enjoyed that world and the way they constructed it that much.
I hate that this movie is in your hands because I think this is my favorite movie that we'll ever talk about on this list.
I mean, okay. So final thoughts.
Hold on, let me just make sure there's nothing else I want to say. I was still in the glow of my love of this film still.
I feel like much like this movie, we've had a very brisk conversation about it.
Yeah. Again, I think the entire well, okay. So one of the things I forget about 2 and 3 is how they just break the rules about toys so much. Like they literally drive a car in two. And 3 somehow the toy aliens get in a room knowing that it will control a claw and pick them up at the right time.
Yeah, that was another thing I was noticing where like in my mind for some reason I was thinking it's been a while since I've seen these movies, so I thought it was something similar to like Calvin and Hobbes where like the whole conceit is that you don't necessarily know if the toys are real in that sense.
Oh, it's totally not. That's so yeah. No, it's not.
Yeah, and the toys are definitely sentient in this universe.
Yeah.
And like they do interact with humans, but like they just barely notice every single time.
But I don't know, it's in retrospect it confounds me. But in the moment I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. And I love the entire dump incinerator sequence of them looking for Meadow to grab the top, and then Lotso's like, help me!" And Woody and Buzz are like, "We're good, we gotta help him." And they try to help him up. He's like, "Sheriff, help me up to the button!" And then they do, and he's standing at the button, and he's like, "Where's the kid now?" And then he runs off. And then they're sitting in the depth the fire about to be burned. As they slowly move down, you see the Andy on Woody's foot, which I've never noticed before because Andy's with them at all times. And
Wait,
when
what do
he's
you mean you've never noticed
no,
that
I never
before?
noticed in this scene, in the
Oh, okay.
incinerator scene, that when he's sliding down trying to push himself back up, you see the name Andy on his foot, and I like that.
Yeah, branded like cattle.
They're toys. You gotta have an element of disbelief when you go into this fantasy world.
I mean, I'm just kidding with that a little bit. I'm prodding myself.
I will say I don't like that in the title card for this movie they like brand the 3 on it, and it has nothing to do with the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Except maybe the Western elements of the opening sequence, but even then, you brand of the 3.
It's making a statement where
But
it's like this is permanent.
I love them slowly realizing what's gonna happen. They reach out to each other, grab hands, brace for it. It reminded me of the montage in Titanic when everyone's just trying to be calm as they reach their death, and the band like plays the music as
Right.
they sing, and it's really something. And then Andy takes the boxes and he brings them to Bonnie's, and he has the play time.
And he has the playtime.
Good. Am I getting the feels right now? Kind of.
So one thing I do want to bring up that you like touched upon a while ago is the idea that like we were cheated by having branded toys as opposed to Andy
Did I say
having.
that?
Yes, you did.
Oh, I meant us in real life, but go on.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I mean.
Okay, go on.
I don't know if that's necessarily the case because there is something to like being shown these characters and like how they might interact with people that like actually adds to your imagination in terms of creating these storylines with these toys.
Sure.
I mean, just because something exists doesn't mean that it's a thing that you're inextricably tied to, but it is something to build off of.
Yes. It feels like a bit of a booster seat, but I don't think that's a bad thing. To get the imagination rolling, you know?
And especially for kids, I think that's fine.
Yeah. What did you think of the I have a note here. Lotso's so fuzzy and cuddly. Oh, and shout out to Richard Kind, who's the bookworm. What did you think of the post-credit scenes?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you not see the post-credit scenes in the movie?
I did not.
It's right away. It's not even like there's a wait. It's right away.
Oh, you're talking about them going into the daycare and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Sorry, the mid-credit scenes.
Right.
I thought they were fun. I like that it ends with the main story, but there's still loose threads that they go to solve.
I do kind of miss the bloopers nature of
Yes.
like the previous like mid-credit and post-credit scenes though.
I think Toy Story 2 and Monsters Inc. are the only Pixar movies to do that though, which is weird.
But
It
like
feels
I
like
really
for all of
love
them.
that in like Monsters Inc.
Oh, totally. Wait, did you know Toy Story 2 had a scene in the bloopers that they took out recently?
Ooh,
Do you want to know
expand. Why?
there's a so for those who forget, Toy Story 2 ends, and there's fake bloopers for the movie with the toys as if the toys themselves are the actors and not Tom Hanks,
Right.
Tim Allen, etc. And there's one where it's the back of the prospector's box, just about the back so you don't see him. And he's talking to people who's like, "Oh, you know, I could get you a job in Toy Story 3 if you want." And it turns around and he's with 2 Barbies in his box.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and so they took that scene out, especially because John Lasseter has his history. It's even worse now. But yeah. Again, humor.
So
not
much
aged well.
like also just so much sexual energy that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, these toys be horny. And I was not expecting that. But yeah,
All right.
I have fun with the post credit scenes. I like that they're doing Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
And then Ham goes, no, Jeff Garland's Buttercup is like, they should do cats next season. And then Ham's
No,
like,
he said
okay.
we are doing cats next
Oh,
season, and then Ham was like, "We should do Ham."
And I'll be honest, there's a part of me that wanted to use cats in my way to fix this movie.
But I take it you didn't go that
No,
route.
I did not. And I love the random paso doble at the end between Buzz and Jesse.
Oh yeah.
That's just fun. I love the Spanish version of that song too. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Oh God, I'm scared.
All right. So final thoughts.
I love this movie. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite films of all time. It's possibly my favorite movie we're going to discuss on the show, and I feel scared.
Well, we're not there yet, and it's not up to
What's
you
your final
or me.
thoughts? What are your final thoughts?
It was nice. It seemed like a great way to like put a cap on this series in terms of like this is the final moment where it's like we're done. It's like we're passing on and moving on to bigger and better
They
things.
don't die. I don't think this is about death at all because it's not the end. There's more going on. If it was the end, I think it is about death.
The way I see them going to Bonnie, I think the name was.
Yes, Bonnie.
It's like being reborn, which I'll come back to as an idea later.
An idea? What? Why? Is it because even though I think this film's incredible and a masterpiece, it's not perfect?
Correct.
And some may say that no film is perfect, and that there's always room for improvement.
In the words of Hannah Montana, nobody's perfect. I gotta work
it again and again till I get it right.
Mm-hmm.
Pawan, how would you fix this film?
All right. I'm so glad you asked. So I have formed my ideas in terms of rhetorical questions. So I'm going to start with gendered children's toys. Now, how I'd expand on this idea is that, so we have the Barbie Ken thing where they're exploring Ken's kinks. They're exploring him in terms of being a girl's toy and like how he feels about that. And the fact that the caterpillar is just like rolls his eyes at the idea of Ken wearing heels instead of being like, that's obviously Barbie, means there's something there. And I want to explore that more in terms of the reason why he's sad and happy that Barbie is ripping up his clothes is because he doesn't like the manly clothes.
But are you referring to the clothes she rips as the manly clothes?
Yes.
And I assume we have similar definitions of quote unquote manly. The glittery clothing that she ripped up.
Okay. All right. I take it you're not enjoying this path so much.
No, I'm trying to wrap my head around your explanation for why
Listen,
Ken
Ken just wants to wear dresses and enjoy it.
Oh, that's different.
But like his friends around him aren't about that.
Juan, if Harry Styles can't do it, Ken can't do it.
Harry Styles can.
Yeah, he can. It's really fucking stupid since a number of musicians have been doing it for decades now. But go on.
I mean, again, Harry Styles is from Britain, and that's a whole nother thing.
Isn't Bowie British? I don't know if Bowie wore dresses, but Bowie was more. Is it androgynous the term I'm looking for?
Yeah, but the thing is, Britain is a lot more transphobic than America.
That doesn't surprise me.
So let's not dwell on that too much.
So,
Uh,
how are you changing the movie?
I'd have Ken realize his passion a little bit more instead of trying to push it away and deny it.
How is this incorporated into the film, or is it just brought up and then left there?
Maybe in like the final shot where like they're back at the daycare. It's Barbie and Ken, and like they're both just like dressed like in Barbie clothing.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
And another element I'd add to this is the dichotomy between Woody and Buzz.
Okay.
So Woody represents Westerns, which is a very regressive genre.
Wait, you're sure the cowboy represents westerns? Go on.
And Buzz represents sci-fi, which is very forward-looking.
Okay.
So we talked about how in this movie Buzz is reprogrammed multiple times.
Yes.
It's a metaphor
Wait,
for
so
it's a metaphor for sexual conversion therapy.
so you're saying Buzz is gay, but converted to straight?
When they hit that button, his he's very much more infatuated with Jessie than he would be otherwise.
So you want these to be the metaphor behind what happens in the film?
Yes. And I want that to be explored more beyond just jokes.
And how would you explore it? Because he's infatuated with Jesse in 2 as well, and early and throughout all of 3.
So the way I see it is Buzz is bisexual.
Okay, the film's never denied this being a possibility. See, now this plays into any heteronormativity in you in assuming that Buzz is heterosexual. There's no denying that.
All I'm
Buzz
saying is I'd
bisexual.
play that up a little bit.
How so?
Listen, this is the first time you're calling me on this shit.
I swear I do this every week. How are you? I want to know how you're changing the movie.
Usually you let me get away with like I'd play that up or
Okay,
But
what
you know
else do you have? What else do you have?
Okay. So I've been harping on about how this movie is about death and how Bonnie complicates that.
By
My
making it-
question, here's the second rhetorical question I have. Should the claw have saved them?
You're not changing the movie. You're asking questions.
Now, what
You
I
can't
do
do
in this
segment.
situation is maybe it's Andy himself who operates the claw, but he's a little too late.
See, that's changing it.
There we go. Yeah,
I don't know what this should the claw save them.
that's
I
me
don't understand.
exploring the idea, and now I'm going into it.
How do you explore that idea by Andy saving?
No,
them?
I mean that's the question I had.
Andy almost saving.
That's the
them.
question I had, and
Oh, so this is the inspiration for your change.
yes,
Okay. So Andy doesn't save them.
and they become slightly disformed and take on a whole new form. Thus, once they reach Bonnie, they are not the toys they were with Andy. They have taken on a whole new life.
I have so many questions.
They have, in a sense, been reincarnated.
Logistically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Andy's somehow there, controlling the claw like so.
Yes.
Claw comes down, somehow misses them. They go in the fire. Andy reaches in and grabs them and brings them to Bonnie?
I'm not saying. So also, you remember how there was a whole bunch of like toys in the mid 2000s of like toxic freaks and stuff like that.
Okay.
I'd say let's make Bonnie a boy and have it be a child that's very interested in those types of toys. And it's like, oh, here's man-made versions of that instead of factory bought ones.
You lost me, point. You lost me with that. That's it?
Oh yeah. So for the song,
Oh, so you want to change the Academy Award-winning song "We Belong Together"?
yes, I didn't notice
should.
it at all.
You should. Yeah, should not have an Oscar. Should not.
So again, my entire thought process that you seem to vehemently disagree with
I'm just.
is,
I don't disagree. I'm just confused.
is that this movie is about death.
I do disagree with that.
The song I would pick to be the end credits is 4th of July by Sufjan Stevens.
Wait, Sufjan Stevens?
Yes.
The dude who did the music for Call Me by Your Name, right?
Yes.
I know he does other stuff, but I need a.
Yes, yes, that guy.
Please tell me your end credits is just a copy of the Call Me by Your Name end credits.
No. So I'll tell you this. The main line of that song is tell me, what did you learn from the Tillamook burn? We're all gonna die. And like towards the end of the song, the phrase "we're all gonna die" is repeated in an exuberant manner, as in like, you know what, this is going to come eventually, but let's enjoy life while we have it. And I feel like that's the main takeaway from Toy Story 3, and that's why that should be the final song.
Okay. You didn't zigzag. You zog-zigged. I'm speechless with these adjustments. I don't even know if they're all changes. They're adjustments.
Listen, they make the movie better.
Sure. I'm not saying they don't.
So listen, you're completely baffled by my decisions. Let's hear yours and see if they're more sane.
So everyone thinks of this movie as being a very sad movie. Very, very sad. And so I just thought let's make it sadder. All right? So it's the end of the breakout when it's them at the garbage I can't think of the fucking word.
Trash compactor.
No, not the trash. It's them. They go down the little slide thingy, and Moody's like, "Not all at once." And they're like, "What?" And Ham's like, "I think he said all at once." And then they all go down.
Oh, the trash chute.
There we go, trash chute. But the trash, the bin, the giant bin, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so the Lotso's there, and Lotso's scary. And they have the whole big baby thing, which I love.
Lotso is scary.
And they have the whole.
That's
big
what
baby
he
thing.
is.
Yes. They have the whole big baby thing, which shout out to the big baby character. I love that also, and I don't think I mentioned it. And if you remember, Big Baby has that one messed up eye. We don't know why. Come back to that later. And they're like, "Lotso, you're not gonna throw us in the trash." And Lotso's like, "No, I am not. I have something worse." And so Stretch, who is the octopus played by Whoopi Goldberg, is behind them and grabs all of them and pulls them back up the chute for tomorrow. What? Fade to black. Cut to establishing shot of the daycare. Shot of different angles of the daycare. It looks normal. It hasn't opened yet. Ding, school bell rings. Kids walking, running. What? Woody's head? Buzz's arm? Mr. Potato Head's eye? The toys have been taken apart by Lotso and his crew and tossed around. Killed, destroyed, forever. And we get a cut to Lotso sitting on his little throne. And he has Woody's hat and badge. He says, "I'm the sheriff now," and laughs maniacally, bang his cane on the ground as he shakes in happiness.
So it's like the sort of toy abomination that Sid made in the first movie.
No. They're not put together. They're completely they're dead. They are dead. They've been chopped up. as punishment, and Lotso has won, which is very sad.
Is that it?
Yeah, I made it sadder.
Oh, okay. By the way, I just remembered one element to my thing.
Okay.
I'd add a second Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, Mrs. Potato Head.
No. A second Mr. Potato Head. So then Mr. Potato Head leaves Mrs. Potato Head for his doppelganger. And like they also play with identity in terms of like they swap eyes and they swap mouths and stuff like that. And it's like I want to get to know you better, but in a sense it's knowing themselves better
I like
because
that
they
we
are one and the same.
I like that we were both like, I don't know about all the sexiness in these movies, and you just add so much sex to it and uh, sexual identity and stuff.
Listen,
It's a
I'm
fascinating
making
change.
it deeper.
I think it's
A
much
lot of what's
deeper.
there is very surface level,
Oh, I think it's much deeper than Avatar.
but that's not what I enjoyed about Avatar. And like that wasn't really a plot point in Avatar that came up that often.
I think this movie is very deep. Again, it's about letting go and moving on.
Yeah, but like gendered toys, bro. Gendered toys.
That's like being mad that Lord of the Rings isn't about capitalism. It's not what it's about. It's not what it's trying to do. You do bring up a good question.
Because I feel like that
you,
is
you do bring up a good question. The chatter telephone. Why is it a dude? It could be a girl. I feel like they play it a bit with Buttercup, the Jeff Garlin unicorn.
Yeah, they do a little bit, but I mean, in terms of the idea, like Toy Story is in a unique position where they can tackle the idea of like toys being made for boys being completely separate from toys being made for girls, which they do touch on briefly here.
I do think part of this. We're going back to analysis, ladies and gentlemen. So did you know that Rashida Jones was originally part of the writing team for Toy Story 4?
I've heard of that, yes.
And then she left. She said part of why she left was that Pixar does not have an environment that's very uplifting for women or people of color. And so I think unintentionally, subconsciously, that probably played into these movies. And so that's an explanation to it. Again, not great, but it's an explanation to it. Because Bo Peep's the only really notable female character in the first one. Second one are her and Mrs. Potato Head and Jessie, and Bo Peep and Potato Head barely have lines in 2. 3 have Jessie and Barbie and Mrs. Potato Head. They have expanded
Which
roles
again,
compared
all
to
three of them, their character arcs, well, less so Miss Potato Head,
I
but
don't think
like
any of them have arcs.
no, I mean in terms of what they do in the movie is completely tied to another male character.
Is Jessie?
Yeah, with Buzz.
I don't think of that as being part of either of their main storyline in this film. I think that's a sub thing. But I think her focus is the getting out and getting back to Andy. Which I guess Andy, the dude. So maybe you are right. Why didn't
But
you
in a
ask
sense, Andy is their god.
Why didn't you ask any of these questions about Avatar?
Listen, I know you're upset, but like
I'm scared.
listen,
You didn't
the
ask any of
reason
these
why
questions about Avatar or Lord of the Rings?
because they didn't bring them up very
This one didn't
snidely.
either.
Yes, it did by making the you're a girl's toy jokes and like the whole things that you brought up earlier.
Right.
It brought it up by introducing homophobia.
Am I mad that you're challenging this film I love so much? Yes. But you know what? Sometimes you have to reckon with our past and the mistakes that were made and grow from them.
So now we've discussed our opinions.
Now it's time for the facts.
the pure cold,
And you know what?
cold, hard facts.
Sometimes these cold hard facts are too cold and too hard, and you're not gonna like them, but you gotta accept them. Well, and it's time to see where Toy Story 3 ranks in our ranking of the billion-dollar films. Let's share this. So let's recap the rankings for the initiated.
So we got
Number 46, Alice in Wonderland.
mhm.
At number 44, Avatar. At number 37, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. At number 32, The Dark Knight. At number 19, Titanic. And number 3, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Pawan, after some tomfoolery and chicanery last week, the rankings are in your hands.
Mhm.
Do you like Toy Story 3 better or worse than Alice in Wonderland?
You know what? I do like this more than Alice in Wonderland.
So you remember when you wanted me to skip Avatar last week? Can we skip Avatar this week?
I mean, you didn't, so I'm not giving you that privilege either.
Do you want me to feel the feels right now? Do you like it better or worse than Avatar? Go.
I don't.
Fine.
I don't like it more than Avatar.
Fuck you. We don't even need the numbery Jong Laf the third this week because there's only one slot between these two, and so Avatar is your second favorite film on this list.
So far, yes.
Toy Story 3 is my favorite film. I think of the entire thing.
What can I say except listen, you can't hate the player. You got to hate the cold hard facts.
I can hate you.
But you
You're
can't
neither
hate
the
the
player
cold
nor the
hard.
fact. You're neither the player nor the fact.
Listen,
I can hate
I'm
you.
not the one deciding this. This is empirically researched.
Well, also, it was technically your turn last week, but you went to play some games. So really, this
That
is
was
your
at
fault.
your request.
This is your fault. Fuck. Toy Story 3 is number 45.
Out of 47.
This pisses me off because I know what's going to be number 47 now.
You do?
Do you know what movie's next week?
I don't.
Well, I'm comparing my favorite film of all these movies to Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides next week. So,
Oh, that's next week, huh? Wow, we really cleared up the bottom real quick.
at number 46, Alice in Wonderland. At number 45, Toy Story 3. I like that the two 2010 movies are near the bottom. 2010, a shitty year for films, I guess.
Listen, the saying is new is always better except for the originals.
What?
The original movies that reached above $1 billion, in this case, are Titanic, Avatar. Well, obviously not Avatar.
At number 46, Alice in Wonderland. At number 45, Toy Story 3. God in my heart. At number 44, Avatar. Fuck you, Pawan.
Listen, I'm upset about that.
Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. At number 32, Dark Knight. At number 19, Titanic. At number 3, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Again, fuck you, Pawan.
Listen, newer is always better, except for the first three.
Newer is always better, which is why we rank these last three movies we've seen lower than the first three movies we've seen.
Because those were the originals, so that supersedes newer is always better.
I can't wait until the possibility that you hate Toy Story 4 more than 3. It's going to be better.
I'm just going to have to accept that.
It's science. We have to accept science. Again, sometimes it's too cold for us, but it's the facts.
Am I going to get as upset about it as you seem to be about this one? I doubt it.
I'm really mad.
I mean, I was mad at Avatar.
But Avatar's not your favorite.
Listen.
And the film that's probably my second favorite of this list is also in your hands now. And so
I'm trying to remember what that is.
It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, the Harrys.
And that was this week's episode of the $1 Billion Movie Club, where we took the Academy Award nominated Best Picture nominee, Toy Story 3, and we spat on it.
Listen, it had to happen. One parting nitpick I'd like to make.
Go on.
Listen, I know I didn't grow up in the suburbs, but that daycare had way too big of a parking lot, had way too nice amenities.
It was very nice. Where do you
That's
think
it.
they live?
I mean, the houses themselves didn't seem to be that extravagant,
No,
but like this daycare center is really decked out.
it was very nice. Yeah, they had the nice playground and everything. They have like the walls that like that close off the playground.
And that was not like fencing or anything. It was like literal like concrete walls.
What an odd film that I love and you hate.
I don't hate it.
You hate it. If I somehow hate Avatar, which I enjoyed, you hate it.
You hated. Listen, you specifically said you liked Avatar less than a movie that you thought had no character development, and you said that that's mainly what you enjoy in movies.
No, I said Avatar had no character development.
You said that about Pirates, Dead Man's Chest as well.
I said Pirates repeated the arcs from the first one, but I don't think I said it had no development. Poor development and no development are different.
There was development in Avatar. You just didn't care.
How many feels did you feel in Avatar compared to how many feels I felt in Toy Story? Let's count them again.
Okay, that is not
I
fair
felt
because
when
I
Andy-
barely feel.
when Woody had the phone, when the mom grabs Andy, twice during the incinerator, once in the final goodbye, Lotso's sadness, when Bullseye like tries to follow Woody, and then the "You Got a Friend in Me" score plays again.
That's
and
another
Cluck-
thing I forgot to bring
What?
up.
What?
Why do Disney has this thing where they like anthropomorphize like these they make these non-human things human-like, and they arbitrarily decide which ones are human and which ones are just animals.
I think this one it's because Woody and Bullseye are meant to be attached. It is similar to a human dog relationship rather than Ham, who's like a dude. You know what I'm saying? Ham's not attached to Woody in the same way that Woody and Bullseye are meant to be.
Yeah, but why does that inherently mean that Bullseye doesn't deserve the ability to speak?
Because it's fucking weird when Bullseye speaks. And it's like, no, Bullseye, now you speak and now you're not connected to Woody in the same way.
Why is that your breaking point?
We've tested my limits so much in this episode. So much.
No, now I'm genuinely curious. Why is that the moment where like you lose suspension of disbelief in this series?
No, it's weird because Bullseye is like Woody's pet. And so him talking to his pet makes the pet relationship odd. Like, and the pet talking back. That's what makes it weird.
But I'm wondering why it necessarily has to be a pet situation.
Because of the horse cowboy relationship.
See, now we're getting into the topic of pets being a form of belittlement.
Shout out to Max Lignaccio for their art. Shout outs to the great Laurie Metcalf, Tom Hanks, Richard Kind, Joan Cusack, the many great talents on this film. Lee
They
Unkrich.
were enjoyable.
I'll
give them that.
Did we mention Lee Unkrich, who directed this as his first solo directorial feature, and then he would later direct Coco? I love Coco. At least we're not talking about Coco in this podcast.
Yeah, I know you're happy about that.
Do you not like Coco?
It's okay.
Thank you for joining us for the $1 billion movie club. Pawan, you can go to Incinerator Hell. Do you have
Yeah.
anything to add?
I can't wait till we're back on a topic that we both semi agree with, because this awkward tension is really building.
We both didn't like Alice in the Wonderland.
Yeah, but
I feel like next week we'll be on the same rope. Because next week, as mentioned before, we're watching Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. Yes, this is the 4th film in a row you could watch in the Disney Plus streaming service.
yeah, we also should talk.
4th.
And this is the point where Disney will start to overtake the list of $1 billion movies, I think. Right?
Oh, it already has. Because Pirates, Toy Story, Alice, and then technically they own both Titanic and Avatar.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of them actually making the movie.
Sure. And we'll get into that later.
Like, you can't say that they had the supremacy at the point of Dead Man's Chest.
Oh, no, I wouldn't say that at all.
But, like, this is the point where they're starting to showcase that.
Sure. Any more shout-outs?
Shout out to Max Lismacchio for the art. Yeah. I think we're good.
Please like, comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Send us an email.
An email at the $1 billion movie club at Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, 101392 at edunyjqy at .com.
You almost doxed yourself, didn't you?
I did not. Yeah, leave a comment, subscribe, leave a review on Apple Music, Google Podcast.
Leave a review on Goodreads. Oh, can I get Goodreads account?
We're gonna talk about this off screen. We're gonna talk about it and figure out. But with that, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Mm-hmm.
He smells like strawberries. Hey there, leave a comment and tell us which one of us you'd like to cancel. The person who gets the most votes will leave the show.
Maybe.
This is an
We'll
Andy
see.
Kaufman SNL situation.
Okay, so decide who gets to stay and who leaves.
Who leaves, who stays, who tells your story?
Who lives, who dies.
Again, this is not about death. This is Hamilton. I'd like to talk about Hamilton, but it was released over Disney Plus rather than the box office. What?
Yes, the box office release is like.
I don't like what that sound does to my anus.